Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes.
Welcome to another episode of Food Freedom and Fertility. We are so delighted to be with you towards the end of this season, recording a fun podcast with a fun guest. Sophia's here with me. You've got both the co-hosts. I know you've listened to a few episodes where we've tag teamed guest experts, but we do have a guest expert today that we're going to do the episode together, and we're excited about that. Soph and I were chatting before this. She's getting towards the end of this beautiful pregnancy, and it's springtime. There's just a lot of fun things in the air, and we're excited to be with you. Today, we have Stone Jamison joining us. Stone is a registered dietitian nutritionist, just like Sophia and I. And we were having a conversation, kind of brainstorming about some clients, and a conversation about reverse dieting came up. What reverse dieting is and how to be successful with patients with reverse dieting for metabolic health. And I asked in the group, like, hey, does anybody have a great resource on this topic, like a good YouTube video or a good podcast? And I mean, there was a room of maybe 20 or 30 of us, and it was like crickets. I was like, Stone, you should make that. And then I thought, actually, let's make it together, and invited her to come on the podcast. So Stone, we're so happy to have you with us. You also may have the coolest name I've ever heard.
And if you're just listening to audio, she has really beautiful curly hair as well. You've heard us. I don't know what it is with Caitlin and I on this podcast. Like, anytime anyone has curly hair, we always talk about it on here. We love it because we have straight hair. That's why. We have straight hair.
Thank you for such a great intro. Thank you for the hair compliments. I'll take those all day. And I am so happy to be here. And Caitlin, you're so right. Like, there's so much space in this whole reverse dieting piece. There's a lot that has been practiced through the years, but not a lot of strong protocols or research around it. So I'm really happy we get to maybe talk through that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this because I've been seeing, we're in sort of the wild, wild west right now with what people are doing to maintain their weight. We have a whole bunch of drugs that have never before been used simply for weight management, now being used extremely extensively in the population for weight management. And then we also have something called the body positivity movement that was really powerful for a time there. But I think now a lot of people are asking questions of, is this really just simplifying people's trauma? Are we actually costing people their lives by saying your weight doesn't matter and you can be healthy no matter your size? And we're starting to sort of raise these kinds of questions. And so it really begins to open up the door for what we're going to be talking about today, reverse dieting. And it probably isn't what you think it is. Like, reverse dieting, if you just listen to it, it sounds like no vegetables, eat whatever you want, all Twinkies. Eat whatever you want all the time, never track anything, and just be totally go without any guidance on everything, and Godspeed, sister. That's sort of what reverse dieting sounds like it's going to be. So this is very, very topical and very poignant, especially because we also see, when we learn about what reverse dieting is, we see people that are maybe now trying to conceive after using some of these weight loss drugs, and they've been really eating very, very few calories for a long time. And their body is going to sort of respond a certain way when those calories increase, and what happens when you start eating for fertility instead of weight loss, and blah, blah, blah. So we'll get into all of that today, but that is really how it's applicable to you, listener. And I want to put that out there so that you know what to expect through the rest of the episode.
Most people that will have pulled this episode up have done some sort of diet in their life. I feel like almost every, at least female I know, has at some point attempted to do something, even if it wasn't weight related. Maybe it was
totally
digestion related or
skin,
something of that.
allergies. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Something. So Stone, you're a registered dietitian. What makes you, I mean, beyond just your credentialing, what draws you to this topic? How did you get into a practicing mode where you have done reverse dieting protocols with people? Tell us a little bit about your specialties and what you love to treat.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out in inpatient eating disorders. And oftentimes now what I practice, which is a lot of like weight management, weight support, ABC, general health, it's almost like the opposite of what I went into the inpatient eating disorder with, which is helping people obtain their optimal weight for health, which oftentimes leads to gaining weight in a sustainable, healthy way. So I still use that background of, what was I doing in order to aid in people gaining weight? And how can I kind of apply that to the weight loss strategies? And Sophia, kind of like what you were saying too, like such a timely time for this conversation, like to have this eating disorder background. I think it's been really helpful when I'm talking about weight loss strategies, thinking about like, how do we do this in a really health promoting way? And not necessarily kind of an eating disorder way. So sometimes that reverse dieting can help us provide like this structural approach of how do we increase your calorie intake to, provide this kind of ceiling or higher ceiling to create a deficit off of. So I use a lot of that eating disorder kind of expertise to inform what I'm practicing today.
Helping to avoid like efforts going down a slippery slope into disordered eating patterns, like trying to get that at the jump.
You used 2 words in that description just there that I would love for you to describe for our audience. You said a calorie ceiling and then a deficit. So what do these sort of mean and how are we using them here?
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of give us a nice framework for our conversation today, we have basically a calorie ceiling, also described as your total daily energy expenditure, basically the amount of calories that your body would need in order to stay at the same weight, to maintain maintenance. So as dietitians, we're usually using something like a Mifflin-St. Jeor equation that gives us.
Oh my God, I haven't heard those words used together in 10 years. Mifflin-St. Jeor. Oh my gosh. Woo! The nostalgia. All right, go on.
You've only heard Dunder and Mifflin together.
Dunder and Mifflin. Yeah, I've heard those together. See, Caitlin doesn't. She says she's not an Office fan, but then she says things like that. So
I'm not an Office fan. A lot of people talk about it.
I mean, it's a classic. So is Mifflin-St. Jeor. It's a classic. Everyone loves it. It's a great equation to basically tell us what is someone's absolute like basement calories. How many calories would they need if they were to basically be in a coma and not do anything but breathe? Like that's how many calories you need. So that's a good starting point. And then we multiply that by something called an activity factor. So this is going to help us understand how many calories that you burn, like if you're doing the dishes or going to the gym or walking around or just doing day-to-day things. So using Mifflin-St. Jeor, we are able to multiply that by an activity factor and understand what are your maintenance calories. This is what I'm describing when I say a ceiling. This is like the basically max amount of calories that we either want to work up to if your goal is maintenance, or maybe the max amount of calories that you would want to work down from if you are trying to be in a deficit, which means basically trying to lose weight. In order to lose weight, you have to burn more calories than you're taking in.
People don't take a lot of issue with that statement. Because they think it's really, simplified. And obviously it is. It's not taking into account the fact that humans are not static engines. It's not like we put in this much firewood and we get out this much heat. We're not static engines. We have a lot of factors going on that will adjust how much we're burning. And we can't always put our finger on exactly what that is. And you've heard us talk a lot on here about like high levels of insulin, right? And insulin being a growth hormone that's really working against you when it comes to burning calories and working with you when it comes to storing calories. And so it's just a really important thing to note as we go through this, because people take a lot of issue with this statement that you have to burn more than you eat in order to lose weight. Bear with us as we go through this, because you're going to hear more of how this works and why this statement is true, but there's more
nuance
that's going to be to it. Because like we've all seen this, us three dietitians, 100% have seen this. We've seen the gal that weighs 230 pounds who is truly eating 1,200 calories a day and not losing any weight at all. And we're like, how could this be? If you had to pull 230 pounds up and down the stairs all day long, like wouldn't you be burning so many calories? It's the fact that we're not these static engines. This is a body that has adjusted. And so I want you to keep that in mind as you listen to this episode, is we're not this statement that I know is like so triggering to people. And we've had, anytime Caitlin and I have like put on social media anything about this, people get like really upset at this statement that you have to burn more than you consume to lose weight. But it is physically true. Nobody's trying to debate thermodynamics here. It's settled science. What we're saying through this episode is that the human body is very dynamic, and there can be a lot of changes that affect that statement.
Well, and that's part of the point of this episode, right? Like, you aren't a static engine, and your body has an incredible ability to adapt to the inputs that it's placed in. One of those inputs being varying levels of energy expenditure, meaning what you did in the day. If you are sick and your immune system is asking for more calories, if you hiked up a mountain or you laid in bed and Netflix and binged. Like, we are not just vacuums that use the exact same thing or placed in a vacuum where there isn't change. And most of us don't eat the exact same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, the exact same portion, the exact same everything every single day. Most of us don't. Some diet people that are like deep into, I'm doing this and I want the numbers to match, they'll go to that extent. But because we are in different situations, our bodies can adapt. And that is why this conversation, I think, is really important, is by and large, I think diet culture does not take that into account. And so extreme forms of promise with different diets come in the form of extreme calorie restriction, hoping to catch you at a place where 1,200 calories is going to yield weight loss. But they're not creating a programming that's going to allow you to lose weight at that and restore your metabolic health afterwards. And I think that's partly why this is so important. So, Stone, talk to me a little bit about how dieting impacts metabolism and like why that necessitates this conversation in the first place.
Yeah. So, Sophia, I love the example that you brought in. So I want to use that as let's use that as a framework here. So we have this female around 230 pounds, and she's reporting eating 1,200 calories a day. And like, it just doesn't make sense, right? This whole calories in versus calorie out equation just doesn't make sense in that situation. So as a dietitian, we might plug in her information, her weight, age, height, gender, and get this projected total daily energy expenditure that we would anticipate that she burns. Let's say it's 2,300 calories. Let's just throw a number out there. But her body is now adapted to 1,200 calories. This is the exact kind of situation that so many people find themselves in after chronic dieting, right? If you are chronically giving your body less and less, your body is not just going to continue to lose weight until you turn into dust and float away in the wind, right? It is going to protect you. And the way that it protects you is it's going to lower how many calories that you burn at baseline. So that equation that plugs in all these factors is not taking into account what does your history looked like. And that's where it's so imperative to work with a dietitian or to understand how your body adapts to chronic restriction. So in that case, like, yes, we believe you when you say, I've been eating 1,200 calories. I feel fatigued. I feel terrible, and I'm still not losing weight. That's because this is where your metabolism has adjusted, because it doesn't understand that this is an intentional restriction. It understands, okay, I'm in famine. My person is really struggling right now to have access to food. I need to protect my person by reducing calorie burning on all these different things. And we can definitely talk through like what are the things that get cut out, including fertility, but that's kind of the situation that we're creating there.
Sophia and I are so proud to be sponsored by TempDrop. TempDrop is a fertility sensor that you wear on your arm while you sleep, and it has a companion app on your smartphone that you can sync those temperatures with each day. That way you can track your cycle and know your own body while you're tracking your fertility trying to conceive. This is an incredible tool. It's one of the first things I like to recommend to new clients. And if you're listening to this podcast and trying to conceive, consider yourself one and head over to tempdrop.com. One of the reasons why I love this brand and this company so much is how value-driven they are. It was born out of a husband and wife trying to conceive and trying to figure out basal body temping and making it easier. And in alignment with that value of making this information more accessible, they have just decided to lower their price. And in a landscape where everything is getting more expensive, I love that this company is making a bold move to make this product and this technology more accessible to women. So the new base price of this model is $189. This is incredible. You can even use our code FFF10 to get 10% off this new lower price. So head to our show notes or to tempdrop.com, grab yourself your fertility monitor, choose the size that you need, throw that code into the checkout area, and get tracking your basal body temperature today. We are taking a break from the episode, and I want to chat with you a little bit about Fertility Cloud. If you've been told you need help ovulating, or you have PCOS and you're trying to figure out your next fertility step, I want to tell you about Fertility Cloud. They make fertility care simple, transparent, and affordable, especially when it comes to ovulation stimulation and ovulation induction treatments. Instead of waiting for months to see a fertility specialist or getting hit with surprise bills, Fertility Cloud lists every price clearly right on their website. You'll see exactly what you're getting into and exactly what it costs. No hidden clinic fees, no surprise invoices later. For my PCOS clients, this is huge. Their ovulation stimulation program can help jumpstart ovulation safely at home with physician guidance and medications delivered directly to you. You can do it all virtually, no driving to clinics or sitting in waiting rooms, and you can often even get appointments same day. If you're wondering, how do we do ultrasounds or what about lab draws? Don't worry, their concierge service helps determine where you can do that locally to you and coordinates with you on your behalf. It's just amazing. And here's the best part. If you're ready to take that next step, you can click the link in our show notes and get $50 off your first appointment. That means you get right in front of a fertility specialist for $115. That first visits gets you matched with a fertility doctor who actually understands your needs, and you'll walk away with a clear plan for your next cycle. So head to the link in our show notes, book your appointment, save $50 on your first Fertility Cloud visit, because fertility care should be transparent, affordable, and built for you. You know, in this Mifflin-St. Jeor equation that we're talking about and laughing about, because we did it 40 million times in our dietetic internship, as kind of the standard that was closest and most accurate for most people, But even that, it's an equation with general things like your age, your height, your weight, and your gender. And that's basically it. And then you take some sort of multiplying factor based on how active you are or if you have some illness state. But a question it doesn't ask, which is something that all three of us will ask you in an intake, which is, what diets have you done in the past? How many are we talking? Like, I have an aunt, my mom used to always say, your Aunt Joni, she's the only one in our family that never dieted. She's the only one that hasn't struggled with her weight. And what's interesting about that is my mom, who has done every diet and has always struggled with her weight, seemed to mark that without even knowing the research, that somehow she had damaged her metabolism, different vocabulary being used, by all of the attempts at weight loss. And when you open up like Lose It or MyFitnessPal or something that you're going to log your food into, and it asks you, how old are you? What's your gender? How tall are you? How much do you weigh? What is your goal weight? It is taking those things and it's making like a multiplying factor to get this particular equation likely. It's going to ask you a question about how often you work out and how intense that is. That's that multiplying factor I said. And then it's going to say, okay, you want to lose 20 pounds by December? Okay, that's a little bit less than 1 pound a week. And so we'll do a 300 calorie deficit instead of a 500 calorie deficit. It's not rocket science that got to that number, but it's usually not a great starting point for anybody that has ever dieted, because that number actually may be closer to your like total energy expenditure or your ceiling if you have done a number of diets in the past or you have done them recently. That's another piece to it.
Yes, how recent this happened and for how long you did them. And listener, this is part of why, I mean, I'm even guilty of this. This is like so shameful to say as a dietitian, but I'm even guilty of this years ago in my career when I would be talking to the 230-pound gal who tells me she's eating 1,200 calories. And I would say, this lady doesn't know what she's saying. I wouldn't think she was lying to me, but I would think she's, 1 tablespoon of sour cream can look a lot like 2 tablespoons of sour cream when it's all spread in your burrito and, such and so forth. I would just blame her essentially in my head, at least, that like, she's not actually eating this little.
Even if she thinks she is.
I don't doubt at all that she thinks she is. Or I'd be like, there's other things happening, like bites of this, a lick of that, a taste of this, that's equating to, 500 more calories by the end of the day. I would not factor in for what we're saying here right now, which is that this poor gal has likely run her metabolism so far down with all this dieting that now she's at the point where 1,200 calories is maintaining her weight. And she's feeling, like Stone said, she's feeling terrible. She is exhausted. She's depressed. She's just, her life revolves around, weighing her salad dressing and going for a walk on her lunch break. It is a tragic situation that she's living through right here. I would never have taken that into account. And so if you're listening to this, I hope you can feel very validated and understand perhaps also why, when you've gone into a doctor's office or another professional and you've reported what you weigh, what you're doing, and you've been sort of scoffed at, this is why.
That's partly why, for sure. So I feel like we've kind of answered a question about how chronic dieting damages metabolism. Stone, do you have anything else you want to kind of say on that piece of this before we kind of move on?
Yeah, I'll name here that anytime that we're using these equations, whether it's MyFitnessPal or your dietitian or ChatGPT, like they are always estimations. They're always ballparks. The gold standard way that we determine, okay, what is your actual maintenance calories or what's actually going on here is how is your body weight responding. So always noting, both of you brought up, like there's so many variables that can impact not just calories in, but hundreds, quite literally hundreds of things that can impact your calories out. So always taking these things as like a ballpark grain of salt there. Um, Other things to talk through as well, like especially I know we're using the words metabolism a lot. Is it okay if we talk about like what metabolism is?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Please define it for our listeners, because who knows what they've been told about it.
It gets thrown around a lot. So basically, metabolism is just all the different processes that go on in our body in order to make energy. That's what your metabolism is. It's going to come from your basal metabolic rate, like the amount of calories that you need just to survive. It's going to come from exercise, but about 5 to 10%, not a crazy amount of your metabolism is from exercise. One of the bigger portions is actually your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So the kind of moving around, like I talked about, doing the dishes, going to work, like those things actually burn quite a bit
Vacuuming,
of
switching the
calories.
laundry, walking from your car to your office. Yeah.
Yes, so much there. And then that final one, that thermic effect of food, how many calories it takes to digest your food. Like when we say metabolism, that's what we're talking about. So when we also say your metabolism has now decreased or your body is adjusting your metabolism, it's impacting some of those quadrants. It's either going to decrease meat's probably the biggest one that goes initially. How much little spontaneous movements that you do, your body's going to downregulate that subconsciously. But also, and what we'll talk about further is like how your body is going to downregulate some of your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, in order to conserve and preserve. It brings that female into that situation of, okay, I'm eating 1,200 calories and this is my new maintenance because of all those changes that your body did to the metabolism.
So when our metabolism is challenged and we did a diet, we lost maybe 10 pounds, but we wanted to lose 20 and we're continuing to do the diet and it's not working anymore. I mean, you see people respond in multiple ways. More restriction, more energy output. I'm going to amp up my exercise routine. Maybe I was exercising 3 times a week. Now I'm going to exercise 4 times a week. Maybe I was walking 2 miles a day. Now I'm going to try and walk 3 miles a day. Or I'm done. Like, why is this so hard for me? And one meal that felt very off plan snowballs into a weekend, into I'll start over on Monday. I'll start over on April 1st, I'll start over, and you shift back into some semblance of a new normal. And quite often what happens is your metabolism has lowered during the dieting. You go back to maybe the same amount of movement, but 300, 500, 1,000 more calories of input because you've restricted for so long. Your body's like, oh my gosh, food, yay. And then you gain the weight back very often. The more is directly related to the metabolic shift that happened while you were dieting. You could go back to the exact same thing you were eating before the diet and gain back more. And isn't that most people's complaint and frustration after a diet? Like, I lost 20 pounds, but when I went off the diet, now I gained back 25 and I'm worse off than when I began. And I mean, I could throw this question, a easy lob at either one of you. Like, what's the greatest indication of failing a diet?
Succeeding at a diet initially, perhaps. I don't know.
Just doing it. I mean, doing it at all. Thinking about these dietary changes as a diet and not making shifts that are intentional, that are going to be sustainable and more often lifelong than I'm on this diet and then I'm off this diet. That's typically what makes it something that is hard to continue and see the sustained results of, because very often they are not sustainable plans. But okay, so we've kind of talked about how chronic dieting or any dieting can impact your overall metabolism. We've used this term reverse dieting. What is the idea, Stone, of reverse dieting? And maybe once you kind of define that, can you kind of go into how that's different from like just shifting straight back into your previous pattern of eating and kind of the benefits there?
Absolutely. So, reverse dieting is this very structured way of kind of transitioning away from this hole that someone finds themselves dug into, right? So, if there's that chronic dieting or there's a history of significant severe dieting that's happening, there's that metabolic adaptation, there's that metabolism that's being downregulated to kind of match you, of matching whatever calorie intake it's getting used to. So if it's 1600, 1200, what have you, it's going to match that. So there can be a point where it's like, hey, we cannot go lower. It is not physiologically possible for you to go lower without getting into these really significant like restriction binge cycles or all these kind of negative health impacts, fertility impacts, all these negative things. So the idea is like, let's go lower. The idea is, hey, let's restore back to what your metabolism wants to be, where you're firing on all cylinders, where you're feeling really good. That way, if weight loss is your long-term goal, we have more of a ceiling to work with. We're not kind of stuck at this bottom level where there's nowhere to turn. Like, we want to give you more options there. So what that structure looks like is every week, or potentially every 2 weeks, we're increasing your calories from baseline by 1 to 200 calories. So this allows some steps, and noting it does not take that long. Like, there's a lot of noise out there of like, reverse dieting for 3 months or 6 months. Like, that is just not indicated whatsoever. Really, like 2 to 4 weeks could be absolutely plenty for most people. But what that process looks like is starting at this baseline, adding 1 to 200 calories, and seeing how your body responds. If you're noticing maintenance after that increase, then 1 week later, we can go up again, see how your body responds. If you're noticing a slight increase from that, then maybe we need another week at that calorie level before we come up. And we use that kind of ballpark, that Mifflin-St. George total daily energy expenditure equation to determine kind of what direction are we heading towards, but also subjectively, how do you feel? Are you noticing, better return of your hormone status? Are you noticing your appetite is becoming more regular? Are you noticing better sleep quality? Are you noticing less food noise? Are you noticing that you're feeling better? Your mood is better. So that number, that Mifflin-St. George total daily energy expenditure, isn't the end-all be-all, but it's a kind of way to say, okay, this is the direction that we're going, and then we're monitoring how you're feeling as we're going through that process.
Okay, I have some questions already. When we're talking about increasing 100 calories per day, how do you do that? That is such a tiny adjustment that we're talking about, like, it's just so small that's like one more bite of apple at lunch, 2 extra almonds at dinner. Like, and by the time, I mean, how is someone being so precise? That's what gets me, is like, that is such a precise measurement. How are people achieving this?
Yeah, so I like to give that range of 1 to 200, just because it gives a little bit more movement with that, because I totally agree with you. Like, you should not be that regimented. And oftentimes I choose one point in the day where there's already a lot of consistency to find areas to add. Not just adding the calories, but also potentially adding more targeted, like, what do you actually need in your diet? I find a lot of times with like chronic dieting, fat tends to be the one that gets cut out there. And if we're talking about hormone health and fertility, fat is so functional, so essential. If you are getting less than 50% of your calories, 15% of your calories coming from fat, it can have some pretty negative effects on your ability to make estrogen and to improve your fertility, right? So I kind of like to take that of like, let's take this range of 1 to 200 calories. And if we're noticing there's no fat or low protein showing up at breakfast, how can we maybe add, 1 egg there, and then maybe some avocado to your toast, and see how that makes you feel. So more so of a range, but kind of targeted of like what are some beneficial macros to bring in as well.
It's not one bite of apple. I'm not picking on you, Soph, but like you can say one medium apple is about 100 calories. So we
What
can
I mean
find
is like when we're judging ourselves between what's the medium apple, what's the small apple, what's the large apple, like the variation between it, just 100 calories. It just seems so hard to measure from where I'm standing, especially when we're not like busting out the scale because like, oh, I'm having some of like my grandma's pea soup. Like, how do I measure this? It's just so precise.
It is precise, but I think the point is more, and maybe it doesn't feel so small to somebody who's been eating 1,200 calories for 6 months, who is, I mean, I feel like the people that I see a lot of times are the people that are weighing everything because they're trying to figure out why they aren't losing weight. And so they know they eat a third of a cup of rice and one chicken breast and as much broccoli as they want because broccoli doesn't have a lot of calories. And then at breakfast, they're doing the same smoothie every morning that they've calculated. And I think there are people out there that could, and I even find in practice, like they know how many calories is in something much more than I do because
totally.
they are married to the control of this. And that oftentimes is the person that's showing up going, I mean, I have one client right now that's just standing out in my head who is that like 200 and something pounds, weighing everything, went and did like a program that you go and you weigh in and you have a very strict thing that you're allowed to eat. And it was like a 600 to 900 calories a day.
Woof,
For
oh, this lady.
a grown woman take all these supplements and now is struggling to lose weight eating 1,200 calories a day. Well, her metabolism was basically like starvation mode for months and months. And so that is the kind of person that, well, maybe from 600 calories, we are going to jump back up to 1,200 calories. But from there, we're going to inchwise up so that you also feel safe. Because the other thing this person is coming into a scenario like this with is a huge amount of fear and distrust that increasing their food isn't going to yield like this heavy rebound weight gain. We're going to take a break from this episode to hear about one of our sponsors. You've probably heard me say this before, but preparing your body for pregnancy is not just about you. It's about both of you. Fertility is truly a team effort, and that's why I love the Fullwell Fertility Trio for Two. Fullwell was founded by a fellow registered dietitian and fertility expert, Ayla Barmer, and this bundle was designed to support both partners in the months leading up to conception. It combines their top-rated prenatal vitamin, omega-3 fish oil, and a fertility booster supplement that covers things like CoQ10, N-acetylcysteine, alpha-lipoic acid, and organic ashwagandha root extract. The nutrients here support overall egg quality, sperm health, fertility, and even your stress resilience. If your partner's semen analysis looks normal, or if it's suboptimal and we need to improve things, nutrition plays a key role for things like sperm motility, count, and DNA quality. For women, these same nutrients help with ovulation, egg development, and healthy hormone balance, not to mention mitochondrial support, which is a huge piece of how your gametes mature and get ready to be that queen egg or that king sperm that make it to combining to form an embryo. These things are foundational for a strong, healthy pregnancy. I personally love that Fullwell's formulas are third-party tested, they're evidence-based, and made with doses that actually match what the research shows we need. No fluff, no underdosing. So if you're planning to start trying this winter or sometime in 2026, or you've been trying to conceive for a while, it's time to think about starting to nourish your bodies for what's ahead. or take a step up from your current protocol to one that is high quality. Head to FullwellFertility.com and use the code FFF20 for 20% off your order. That's FFF20 at checkout. I'll drop the link in the show notes for this specific fertility trio bundle and for Fullwell, along with this code FFF20. Give yourself and your future family the best foundation with Fullwell's Fertility Trio for two.
I'm interrupting this episode for another of our sponsors. This one is so exciting. They actually approached us and asked if we wanted to do a partnership, which was a resounding yes from me because I have been a huge fan of their products for years now, and that is Cozy Earth. If you haven't heard of Cozy Earth, they make the softest, most luxurious, most comfortable bedding and linens and towels and just all the things that you would want in your home. So if you are looking to have a fresh start this new year, if you want to have a refresh in your bedroom, in your pajamas, in your loungewear, in your bath towels, your bedding, anything like that, Cozy Earth is the place to go. You have heard us harp on sleep quality on this podcast 100 times. If your bed is soft and cool and smooth, how much better of a night of sleep do you have? And that is really what Cozy Earth is offering. They have a risk-free purchase option where you can try them out for 100 nights. And if you don't absolutely love them, you can return them hassle-free. But let me guarantee you, you will love them because these are seriously fantastic linens. There's also a 10-year warranty. So if they are not living up to your expectations within those 10 years, Cozy Earth is there to help resolve the issue with you. So go on over to CozyEarth.com and use our code FFF20 for up to 20% off. And if you get the post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here on the Food Freedom Fertility Podcast. Bye. Gosh, I relate to this and feel for them so much. And I also am very curious of what that program was. And I think I know what it was, but we maybe don't want to say it because we don't want people to sue us if we're saying something bad about it. But yeah, very okay. Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of that, it is oftentimes when someone has been chronically restricting to the point where they've just gotten so low with their calories, there is certainly some rigidity around eating there. And Caitlin, you mentioned trust. Like that is a huge part of this. And that is why I see reverse dieting as more of a behavioral intervention before anything else. Like it's almost like more important or just as important for you to trust yourself to eat another slice of toast with avocado and egg and know that you are still okay, that your body is still safe. Like to have that biofeedback that I can add more and really nothing crazy changes. My body doesn't change that much. Like that evidence kind of helps with this process too, as much as it's like, communicating to the body that, there's more energy availability, there's more calories on board, they're safe to hear. It's also communicating to the person of like you can eat more and there's a lot of positive effects here. We don't have to be afraid of adding foods all the time.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about, I didn't send this to you ahead of time, so your call on how you want to answer this, or if you want to bat it back to me. But do you see in somebody that has restricted to that level, kind of like a stagnant GI tract that's struggling to have regular bowel movements? And so I also see when I'm working people through this process of like adding back a fear of like, well, I'm already constipated. So what is adding more food going to do when I already am struggling to get it through my digestive tract?
Such a great question. Such a challenging thing when people are trying to eat more with this like significant barrier of like, I already feel bloated. I already feel constipated. That's the last thing that I want to do. And it's so counterintuitive. And that's why working with a dietitian is so essential, because like no one would intuitively think this is the treatment, but we know one of the biggest things that gets hit first when you are having low energy availability, when you're not eating enough calories, your body is going to shut down your GI. It's going to slow everything down because that takes a lot of energy to create that peristalsis, that movement through the GI.
Mm-hmm.
That starts to diminish. And then your reproductive hormones, that starts to diminish. If you don't have enough energy availability, those two things are going to slow down. Maybe not completely go away, but start to slow down, definitely impacted. So that kind of strategy to bring in something slowly can also be advantageous to make sure we're not overwhelming the gut as well. In those cases as well, sometimes it's really helpful to go for more of the semi-solids or the liquidized forms of nutrition. Potentially we are focusing more on smoothies or being very cognizant of when and where and how much we're bringing this fiber in. Hydration is a big part of this. We want to make sure that we're adequately hydrated anytime we're increasing anything in our bodies, or just adequate hydration in general. It can be helpful. A lot of people are dehydrated these days. So yeah, definitely hear you of like, that is a big challenge, and eating more is going to be the treatment to kind of increase that motility in the gut and make sure you're feeling your best.
I'm sure so many of you have experienced this. Like your body's going to adjust to what you're doing. And so this is, I think of the gals that are like, I don't eat breakfast. I'm not hungry in the morning. I don't eat breakfast. And this is the same concept of people that are like, I can't eat if I'm working out. But then we see people that then start training for like long distance running. They want to do a half marathon or whatever. And it becomes like you actually have to fuel while you're doing all of this. And so even though if you had a meal within 2 hours of a run before you started doing this, like you would get like such a cramp, we're now having to shorten that time and add in fuel while you're exercising. Your digestive system is going to adjust to the demands you put on it. So if you've been chronically under eating, it's not a surprise that you're having low stomach acid, poor enzyme production, slow motility. Like these things, your body did this because imagine what would happen if you made enough stomach acid for 3,000 calories and then only ate 1,000. That would not be safe for your stomach. So your body does make these adjustments for you. And that's why when we're doing this sort of reverse dieting, like adding in more calories again, you do it slow and the digestive system has to wake back up and adjust back over to this. And this is also why you see people that are like ultra marathon runners eating like a McGriddles as they're crossing, start on the starting line of this race. Whereas you're like, dude, if I looked at a McGriddles within 2 hours of my piddly little 3-mile run, I would be barfing. And it's because they've trained their digestive system as well as muscles and respiratory system and cardiovascular system. It all works together.
Yeah, absolutely. Training the gut is a big part of it, and giving yourself enough energy to do those things is a big part of it as well. Like if you are skipping breakfast and you're now training for a marathon, that is a huge chunk of your day where you have an opportunity to fuel. And if we are not taking advantage of those opportunities to fuel, we risk low energy availability. We risk REDS, that relative energy deficiency in sport. And those things not only is going to hurt your marathon performance, but it's a stressor on the body. Caloric restriction is absolutely a stressor long term. The last thing that we want to do is add to that whole recovery elongation by adding stressors by not eating enough.
So when I think about reverse dieting, I mean, obviously we're having this conversation. We believe in this concept. You mentioned at the beginning of this call, there's not really enough data and research around it. And we have people that are struggling to trust their body, not just in their food intake and metabolism and weight management, but they feel betrayed by their body because the one thing they really want to do and should be able to do in their body is procreate. Like that is every animal's instinct, whether you want that or not. Your body, like instinctually and in the way that it is designed, is set
And
up
not
to
even
try to
animal, like
procreate.
a plant, a freaking bacterium, like a virus that's so small we can hardly see it. Like this is like one of the things that means you're alive. This is so fundamental to life.
So we're trying to trust here. We're trying to trust our body. We're trying to trust this process potentially that you're talking about, Stone. Obviously, we believe that you can kind of heal your metabolism. I wonder, you mentioned in kind of the conversation that led to this recording in and of itself, a couple like testimonial type stories of clients that have done this well, that you've worked with. And I think maybe painting the picture of the possibility of healing your metabolism or rehabbing your metabolism, we could even say. I think our audience would love to not just hear like the whys and the hows, but like hope. Can you paint a few stories of hope for us?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And when we talk about, just to think about the verbiage around this too, I like to think about it like your metabolism is trying to protect you when it is decreasing, when it's becoming more efficient, right? Because it's protecting you from when it's something it perceives as a stressor, as a bad thing. So as far as a hopeful piece, I have never met a human being. I don't think there's a human being on this earth that has a broken metabolism. Metabolisms are very adaptive to decrease when they need to be. They are also very, very adaptive to increase. One, I saw this every single day of my life when I was working in inpatient eating disorder. Every time someone came in and they were maintaining on quite literally like 1,000 calories at times or 1,200 calories at times, very, very low calorie intakes, and their body was maintaining because it could not go lower. And then the aspect of we were able to increase their calories, and they were able to increase their metabolism, like even their weights, especially in bulimia or other kind of eating disorders outside of anorexia. They're actually noticing like their weight didn't change much, but their calorie intake was increasing. So I not only have one single case study there, but I literally saw it every single day. There's so much trust of like, I know the metabolism is built to adapt, not just to decrease, but also to increase. And also, like, I remember back to probably about a year ago, I was working with a 28-year-old female, trying over about 2 years to conceive, and they were really struggling to do so. And she was an appropriate weight status. She came in, but she constantly had this restriction with everything that she was doing, like really since college. She was chronically restricting and did not feel comfortable eating more than 1,500 calories a day. So what we did is we increased her calories by about 300 calories in total, but we really targeted more of eating fats. Fats are so essential for making those sex hormones. And just with that change alone, it quite literally took 3 months of her communicating that safety and that regularity to her body. Energy availability, eating enough is one of the clearest communications that we can give to our body of like, hey, it's safe to reproduce. We have what we need. She was able to get pregnant, and she had a really successful pregnancy in that situation. So like, not only have I seen this with a lot of people recovering from eating disorders, but also just recovering from disordered eating. There is so a little bit really can go a long way to tell your body it's safe. We can get back on track with doing all these functions.
Okay, here's a question that I have for you. We're going to keep using this avatar of the 230-pound gal that's eating 1,200 calories. What is she supposed to do? I see this a lot. I see that, she's like, okay, my doctor says I need to lose weight. I'm insulin resistant. I maybe have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And anytime I go above my 1,200 calories, my weight goes up. And here I'm being told I need my weight to go down. My doctor's telling me I need to lose 50 pounds before I'm going to be healthy enough to have a baby. Plus we see all this data of like, if you're obese going into a pregnancy, your risk of every, scary thing is much more. What is this lady supposed to do? Because she's hearing this message of like, we need adequate fat, we need all these things in order for you to ovulate, get pregnant. Meanwhile, whenever you're not doing this 1200 calorie thing because you enjoy it, you're doing this because you're supposed to be losing 50 pounds. What would you say to this lady?
Yeah, absolutely. So in that case, I would still go about what can we have this issue, right? We know that her body is likely in this very much so adaptive state to the chronic suppression of her appetite and chronic suppression of her calories. So we know that to be true, as evidenced by her total daily energy expenditures probably much higher than that 1,200 calories. So that evidence alone, as well as her saying she doesn't feel good, all these things are happening, that's evidence enough to say it is appropriate to increase your calories. And I also want to note, sometimes weight loss is a long-term journey. This is an investment to an effective weight loss journey. If we just continue to bring her down to 900 calories instead, she'll probably lose weight. It's probably not going to be sustainable. She's probably not going to lose the 50 pounds or what have you that the doctor recommended, right? So it is creating stabilization, and that can feel like, wait, I'm not supposed to be stabilizing, I'm supposed to be losing weight. But it also supports, like, if we can increase your ceiling, then you're going to have so much more room to create this deficit. And we're also going to be able to create a deficit that's far away from your BMR. That is basically, I don't know about you guys, but that is like my no-no zone. When I'm working with someone with weight loss, like, there's never an indication where we want to go below your BMR. It's a very selective case that tends to just lead to this whole situation happening again. So I would still go about it with, like, what can we add that's going to be supportive of your fertility and PCOS? How can we add fiberful carbs? How can we add really healthy unsaturated fats? How can we make sure that you're getting your protein needs met? That's probably not happening on the 1,200 calorie diet. So how can we be really targeted about what we're adding, make you feel better, and then go through this process of a more sustainable, healthy weight loss?
So you've used a couple terms that, frankly, Sophia and I are not the eating disorder experts, but I think these words are getting thrown around a lot in social media even right now. You hear people almost always say eating disorder or disordered eating patterns, right? Can you, especially with the expertise that you have in this, kind of help people navigate between those terms in case potentially they identify with what you're sharing and can maybe call out for support that would be appropriate for their level of need?
Yeah, absolutely. So eating disorders, things like anorexia, bulimia, binge eating disorder, these are things that are diagnosis. You actually need to have a psych D or a psychiatrist or an MD diagnose you with these things. They are a far end of the spectrum, and the way that they go about diagnosing, like, is this actually something we want to put a label on? Or there's also OSFED too, which is kind of a catch-all for a lot of things. But the way they go about putting that label on is like, what is the frequency? What is the intensity? How is this disorder impacting your quality of life? So there are some things in the DSM-5 that need to be met, the kind of diagnostic manual that all these doctors are using, that need to be met in order to determine, is this truly an eating disorder? Outside of that extreme, there's everything exists on the spectrum. There is certainly a spectrum of disordered eating. And I like to describe this as, like, if it's a disorder, it is impacting your quality of life some way, shape, or form. So some people are like a little bit on the healthier eating, but maybe just a little bit off end of the spectrum. Some people are pretty close to that eating disorder end of the spectrum. So some ways that you can tell if this is you is, one, is it impacting your ability to socialize, to connect with people, to live in your values? That is a huge one. If you're avoiding social events because you feel like you have to exercise, you're avoiding eating certain things because you feel fearful of them, those are indications like this is worthwhile to explore. If you think you got an eating disorder, talk to someone about it. Just start the conversation. It is never a bad idea to learn more and to get help if you need to.
I love that. What have we not covered? What have we kind of left out in this idea, and maybe more particularly impactful for the folks that are listening to this going, my metabolism seems like it's probably at a concerning pace, but I am trying to get pregnant and maybe I'm trying to lose weight. What in the fertility sense, or even entering pregnancy more metabolically stable or healthy? What should we chat about before we put a button on this episode?
Yeah, I would love to talk about like kind of preventing this situation from happening. We've talked a lot about like, okay, this is what you could do in order to get yourself out of this hole. How do we prevent ourselves from being in that hole in the first place? So that's a big piece of my passion project too, of like this healthy, sustainable weight loss. How we identify something as healthy, sustainable is a gold standard. We see how your body's responding. Are you losing about 1 pound per week? If you're losing more than 2 pounds per week, you're probably losing some muscle mass. That's not advantageous for your metabolic health or for your fertility. So the rate of weight loss is very much so important. Two, we want to think about this safe but effective deficit. So that's where using those numbers as like a ballpark, a way to start, can be really helpful to determine, okay, if I'm probably going to be somewhere around this for my maintenance, and this is my BMR. What is a number in this that gives me maybe a 300 to 400 to 500 calorie deficit, less than your maintenance calories, that you can sustain? And as you are trialing this, not committed to any numbers, right? Like we are constantly going through the process of trial and error, but as you're trialing that number, you're constantly monitoring not just the objective data, what's your weight responding to, but also the subjective data. Are you noticing significant food noise or cravings? Are you noticing, sustainability wise, is this something that fits into your life? Is this actually applicable to you? All those things matter to determine what is the appropriate, safe, effective deficit for your body. Noting we never want to get to this point of extremes where we're cutting so much, you're experiencing all these symptoms, and then your metabolism wants to adapt very quickly to protect you. By going the safe and effective deficit route, you're still making sure that your body feels safe to be fertile, safe to do all the things that it needs to do, but you're also losing weight in a steady manner. I'm curious to get y'all's thoughts on that. Like, do you navigate those situations any differently when someone's wanting weight loss, but also on their fertility journey?
I would say yes and no. I would say like fundamentally what you're saying is essentially what we're doing. The methods maybe are a bit different. I don't know. Caitlin and I work with people that are like same, but different. Like, in PCOS, I've said this before, like it's a disease of excess. It's not, I don't mean of like excess eating. I mean of like so much hormone at times. Like they're making so much estrogen and there's so much luteinizing hormone that you're kind of working to like, okay, whoa, like hush, your ovaries are getting bombarded here, girl. We got to bring this on down. Whereas a lot of the gals I work with, we're trying to be like, all right, hormones, wake up, get going. Like there's just not enough to go around here. And so I think I kind of rarely work with people nowadays where we're even trying to lose weight anymore. Like my population is more like, look, here's what we're going to do. You need to be eating this much protein. We need to be eating this much fiber. We need to be including these kinds of foods, yada, yada, yada. And if weight loss needs to happen for your body to be more fertile, then so be it. But like weight loss is so rarely a goal for the people that I'm working with that I just have been sending everyone to PCOS to Caitlin. So I don't get that many people nowadays where they've even been told you need to lose weight. Whereas the poor gal with PCOS since she was 12 years old has probably been on a billion diets and been told she needs to lose weight 100 times. And so I think it's a little different who I'm working with these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stone, and I know you even feel this way, I'm sure, is like you're always looking at the individual. And even with the same presentation, you know, I've worked with so many people that fit an avatar that sounds like 230 pounds, dieted their whole life, struggled. Mom put them on their first Weight Watcher or something at 11 years old, or, you know, like that type of a story. But I've also worked with individuals that have, you know, a regular BMI, but on the lower end of regular, like maybe 20, and they exercise every day of the week. They can't take a day off of exercise, and their nutrition is quote unquote so dialed in. And the thing about fertility that is very interesting is oftentimes like the motivation level feels really extreme, which is awesome. It's a fun population to work with in that
it's one of my favorite parts
in.
about working with y'all is that you are willing to like eat a bug if I tell you it's going to help you get pregnant.
Right. But so you might have somebody that's like, I want to be pregnant yesterday. And you're like, well, you probably need to eat twice what you're eating right now. And then they're like, okay, I'll go do that.
That is one thing we do have in common in our clients.
That even though it's like, yeah, in the past, I might have been afraid of weight loss. And like, if I were to increase my calories so drastically, I would be afraid of my weight. Right now, I want to be pregnant 2 years ago. And so if you tell me 1,400 calories isn't going to do it, and I need to add 1,000 calories, I'm just going to go do that. And, you know, if that like chronic state of kind of starvation for them is fixed in that, it will kind of in a lot of Sophia's explanation of like her general client, it will help turn back on those systems that you were also speaking of, Stone. Like you add extra fat in, and then your body's like, oh, great. Now we have the steroids and the fats to actually make estrogen and make progesterone. We have the building blocks now. So I think there's a piece of that. I think the other piece is also not just looking at the energy and how you feel and what, like, if we do a recall with them, if they have kind of no idea what their calorie intake even is, helping to just build at the basics of like, you've done South Beach diet, you've done keto, you've gone vegan, you've done juice fasts. Now you've tried time restricted eating or intermittent fasting, and you have done so many contradictory things in the past. You actually have no idea what is just basic, fundamental, good for me. And so sometimes it's like we're laying the most basic foundations, like what my 4-year-old is asking about food, like how much protein is in this, mommy? And can I have more of this? And I'm like, well, we haven't really eaten any vegetables today. Let's have a vegetable first and get some fiber in your belly, and then you can have something like that. Like it sounds really like maybe patronizing, but I'm teaching some of these basic building blocks that what you learned in second grade probably wasn't wrong. You need a wide variety of things. You don't need to be afraid of fruit. Moderation is okay, and dessert once a week isn't going to be the reason you're not getting pregnant. There's oftentimes like a hyper fixation on everything. And what if I do this, or I don't take my supplement, or, you know, I have one client that will like, she came into me on 40 different supplements because she bought everything anyone ever said worked for her, right? Invested so much money in that, but struggling to afford an HSG to see if her tubes are even open. And you go, okay, we really need to flip the script. You are questioning this dietary advice I'm giving you because it disagrees with what you learned on TikTok. Like, we really need to take a step back and go, who can we trust? what are safe steps forward? And so there are wide extremes of the landscape of even just one subspecialty of like fertility, that I think it is awesome to get in front of someone that can help the individual. Because even that same presentation of a 230-pound individual that is chronically dieted that also may happen to have a PCOS diagnosis, grew up in a house eating certain things, may have had food scarcity. I had a client just yesterday that told me, like, I eat a lot because when I was a kid, there wasn't a lot of food to eat. And I don't know how to work through that. It's like, okay, this isn't just about getting your hormones in line. Like, we have to work with therapy likely and bring other practitioners in. And so, yeah, it's so individualized.
It so is. And I mean, even if we're like, you're to take anything from this podcast, it'd be exactly what you just mentioned, Caitlin, of like the best diet is no diet at all. A lot of this reverse dieting, like I still view it as like, it's a psychological support. It is a way to gradually build up so it doesn't feel like you're just jumping into the deep end with no support.
Hey, friends, we're taking a break from our episode to talk about one of our sponsors. And this sponsor is the PCOS app. Did you know that I made an app all about PCOS? Well, I did, and you can find so many resources in it. We have slowly moved all the resources from my PCOS Hormone Academy course over into the PCOS app, and that talks about all things PCOS topically. Like if you have acne, you can go look at the skin and acne modules and see, what does Western medicine offer? Why does this impact PCOS? What can we do about it? What are natural remedies? What are nutritional remedies? We talk about hair loss and hirsutism all through that lens where we go through, what is it? Why is it impacted by PCOS? Or why do we need to pay more attention to this particular thing? And what can we do about it? And we provide a vast resource to help you both advocate for yourself at the doctor's office and treat yourself at home naturally. Now, the exciting thing that I want to share with you is starting in January 2025, we're starting to migrate all of the content that I have published so far on fertility into this app. I used to sell a course for $700 all about how to get pregnant with PCOS, and that is all getting moved into the app between January and March. So you can take the course as if you enrolled in the whole thing for $10 per month. So head to your app store, whether you're on a Google Android device or an Apple device. If you type in PCOS app, you just look for that really pretty lavender flower, you'll find it. Download it and join us because you're going to get weekly recipes and all the fertility focused PCOS content that you need. It will start being uploaded under the Academy tab. So stay tuned for that. And let's get back to our episode.
Hey, it's me again, Sophia Pavia, registered dietitian nutritionist specializing in women's health, fertility, and optimal progesterone production. And I'm interrupting an episode of my own podcast to tell you about my online course called Ovulation Unlocked. So if you've been listening to our podcast episodes, you've probably heard a lot of things about basal body temperature, cervical mucus, cervical position, and tracking your fertility. Well, I have designed a 90-minute self-paced online course, which I titled Ovulation Unlocked, that puts all of that together and teaches you how to be the expert on your own fertility from home. This course is designed to put you in the driver's seat of your own fertility, not only so you can know what's going on with your body on any given day, but so that if you need medical help, you can show up to the appointment informed and ready to communicate. Too frequently, us women show up to our doctor's appointments and just say something like, I want to have a baby. And the doctor looks at you and says, good for you. Stop using birth control, start taking a prenatal, come back in a year if you're not pregnant. And that's all we get. However, Ovulation Unlocked puts you in the driver's seat, puts you in control of your fertility to where if you need help, you can show up to that appointment informed and ready to communicate your needs. So if you want to become the expert on your own body and your own fertility, head on over to my Instagram bio and tap the Ovulation Unlocked link today.
Yeah, we're just like the anti-diet culture, which so reverse dieting different than anti-dieting, because we've had gals on here like helping with people that have been restricting and binging and all of this, and then we're suddenly going to go no diet at all and just let chaos reign so that you can begin to form a healthy relationship with
Right.
food after you've gone through this like rumspringa of your
Right. And it's
food life, eating
exactly, you want
Rolos
to
for
give
dinner.
this structure of like, hey, we want to make sure that you feel satiated. So we're going to bring in fibers, proteins, and carbs, like in healthy fats, in order to make sure we're setting you up for satiation and consistency of eating and bringing in foods that you enjoy that are also really functional. Like that is the goal here of like, we want to get away from, how many calories are you eating and more so just like, are you fueling yourself with general food groups? Are you feeling good? And the weight's going to fall where it falls. Sometimes that means, weight loss because there's more consistent balanced eating. Sometimes with this reverse dieting, people will notice like, oh, I'm gaining weight. I'm only increasing by 200 calories, but I'm gaining weight. That's an indication of like maybe your body needs to be at a higher weight. And that's, as you mentioned, Caitlin, therapy support's really helpful too, of like maybe
Because that can feel so unsafe and so scary when you fought so
yes,
hard to
and
be in
maybe
this little
the
body.
smallest body is not your optimal weight for health. Like that can be another why gradually going up to this can be really supportive for people to kind of come around to that really scary reality of like, okay, maybe I just need to be in a different body to be safe.
That was my situation, listener. That was my situation. And I often now I have a great visual aid for people that are afraid of gaining weight. I'll just slowly angle down the camera and I'll be like, yeah, you don't want to gain any weight. You got the wrong goal, girlfriend. Like, you're not going to have a six pack when you're 8 months pregnant. So, if gaining the fact that we increased your, whatever, and you gain 2.5 pounds is like really scaring you, we're probably going to need to do some more work because you're going to gain more than 2.5 pounds when you finally do get pregnant. And you're going to have to really be okay with a
And
lot of
being
body changes.
okay can take work. Like Sophia's pointing down to a belly that 6 months ago she was saying she was fat, right? Like, you're not fat. You're pregnant.
Listen, I'll still
No,
say
you're not
that,
fat.
but
You're pregnant. And so body image issues
it's tough.
are not
It's a
even
journey.
something that we're immune to. We have to work on our own mindset and our own beliefs about ourselves and our own beliefs about our value, that it's not tied to your waistline. It's not. And I think for a lot of us, you come to appreciate that inherently after you grow a human inside of you, for sure, because you're like, wow, my body just did the most amazing thing that it could ever do. It required a bigger waistline. Like, it required probably double my waistline, but it's the most amazing thing I've ever taken part in, is growing a human inside of me and birthing a human. Like, that's amazing. I know you're listening to this because you want that, but you will inherently see value that has nothing to do with your weight, with your waistline, with what dress you could squeeze into for that party this weekend. And I think that work is hard work to get there, inch by inch by inch by inch. And some of us are going to need support of a best friend that will say, stop talking about my best friend that way, or of a therapist.
Caitlin's had to intervene so much. She's had to intervene so much in this pregnancy for my mental health in so many ways, guys. Get you a
But
Caitlin in your life.
But
Where would
support,
I
get the
be without
support
this?
around you that you need, because maybe it is a dietitian like Stone who can help you hold your hand as you increase the calories because it's scary. And maybe it's a dietitian like me who had that conversation with a client that was like, okay, I'm not enough. You also need a therapist. Let's pull up a list of therapists that specialize in this, that take your insurance, and I'll hold your hand through this process, because I'm not trained in that side of it. I can help you with the food side of it and some of that, but you need somebody that can really dig deep with you there. And so I hope that you hear the message. You're not alone in feeling this way, but you're also don't need to be alone in managing these things.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Okay. Let's pop in a quick yeah, girl, because I know our girl Stone has got to roll out of here. You catch that joke, the Rolling Stone?
That's wonderful.
Okay. Hey-oh! All right. Everybody still listening? So, okay. So, a yeah, girl.
Oh, I have the
Caitlin,
best.
what
I
do you
literally
got
was
for
looking at my
us?
phone earlier. An email came in 40 minutes ago. Hey, Caitlin, I just wanted to let you know that I'm pregnant. Praise the Lord. I want to tell you, I'm not going to give any details about this particular client, like, HIPAA stuff, but I've been working with this gal for 5 years, and this is her first pregnancy.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you so much for all your prayers, your support, your education, and helping me get here. I also wanted to let you know that your intuition was right. We have done all the things, okay? And at one point I was like, I really think you should be really proud of everything you've done with your body. It's time to add a little medicine in. And it's okay. It's not failure. It's a tool. Let's use it. She's like, and this is a great shout out to a sponsor. It took 1 round of letrozole through Fertility Cloud and I got pregnant. Thank you for following your calling in life. You're changing generations in so many ways and drastically improving women's quality of life. You've made a huge impact on my life. I mean, yeah, girl. Yeah, girl for
the
this
biggest
client.
Yeah, girl. Yeah, girl, Fertility Cloud. Yeah, girl to this girl. Yeah, girl to Caitlin for
5
working with
years.
someone for 5 years.
I'm just so, I could honestly cry.
And God knows how long she was trying before she even hired you.
That's incredible.
Oh, sweet girl.
Yeah,
praise
so
God. Oh, that is wonderful. That is what it's all about on the Food, Breed, and Fertility podcast. We don't even need more yeah girls. This is all we're working towards, people. This is what it's all
coming
for.
on to join this podcast because, you work and change people's lives every day, but this episode could really be something that unlocks a huge piece for them where they're like, oh my gosh, I really do need to give up this restriction and be open to more nourishment, more, my body deserves more and not less to get to this goal that I have that actually, the whole thing resounds around abundance. You want to grow a big, healthy, beautiful baby, abundance. Let's get our mindset fixed on that versus focusing on what more I need to restrict, what more I need to do, more that I need to accomplish. And I think another just message of hope in this episode is you can trust your body more, that it will respond when you give it more.
Mm-hmm. If that's the take-home message right there, I would be the happiest person ever. That's exactly what I hope people can hear and lean into a little bit more.
Okay, who wants to go next? So for Stone.
I'll send it to Stone. Yeah, I want another example. Yes.
Oh, you want to send it to me? Okay. You're the guest. You will do what you'd like. It's a beautiful day here in San Diego, and I get to take my kids to a birthday party at the beach today. So that is exciting. I don't know what's going on in the world where everybody acts like a child's birthday party is like some death march or something. It's just so crappy. We have to go to a birthday party. Comedians like to knock this, that oh my gosh, once you have a kid, you have to go to all these stupid parties. I love it. Because it's all my friends who are having kids. So I get to go hang out with them. And my kid has a great time at whatever this thing is. And also, the crowd that I travel in, we don't do these exclusive, elaborate birthday parties where there's huge themes and you have to drive across town and all kinds of stuff. We're come to the beach. We've got string cheese, sand toys, and I'll pull out some cupcakes about an hour after that. And we'll all sing and blow out a candle and go home. It's pretty low key, and it's honestly a good time. I love it. Even when it's meet us at the park, we have a bounce house and your kids just jump around for an hour and have a fantastic time. So I'm excited. I'm going to go to my neighbor's son's birthday party and bring my kids there later. They're going to have a great
Yeah,
time.
girl.
And
Go
that's
get
my
some
outro.
vitamin D on that skin. Go enjoy that day.
Mine is similar.
Yes. And a kind of a privileged take, I guess. People are like, well, I live in Oklahoma and we have the elaborate themed birthday party because we don't have a free beach 5
Yeah.
minutes away like everybody else. And it's not
Oklahoma,
77
try
degrees
Kansas.
in winter like it is for you, Sophia. Yes. And I get it. It's like, it would be a different story if it was like, I sort of have to make this balloon arch because I don't just have like the sun setting on the water as a backdrop for free.
Fair
So,
to
all
name.
right, I get it.
The beach is the party. And kind of similar for both of you guys, actually. Like, I got 70 degrees in Denver today. So I think I'm going to get
Amazing.
outside and tan or something. It's wild winter, but I'm going to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. I didn't know you were in Denver. Ooh, I want to come
Enjoy.
through. Soph and I go to Colorado usually once a year, and I really want to go to our favorite dentist in Denver. So maybe we should do like a Denver experience, and then we can hang out with Stone
Yes.
and go get our teeth cleaned.
This is a dentist you had on
My folks live so close to there.
right? It's not just your. Okay.
On an unreleased podcast episode, yes, where she dropped solid gold for both of us, and we had like some connectivity audio issue and it ended up being unusable. Very
But
tragic.
she wrote a book.
Yeah,
She wrote a book on
There's
fertility and
love.
dentistry, right? Anyway, if I can find it, I'll put it in the
Something
show
like
notes. Stone, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the sunshine on this wonderfully sunny, abnormally warm March day in Colorado. Thank you for
having me. This was so much
Yeah.
fun. You have an incredible podcast. I've loved listening to a couple of these episodes too before. So keep up the great work. You're doing a lot of meaningful work here.
Thank you, guys.
All right, and listener, remember to rate, review, like, subscribe, share. It helps other people find us because there are gals out there right now that weigh 230 pounds and are eating 1,200 calories, and their life is sad. And we don't want her life to stay sad. We want her to be healthy and pregnant and happy and to find us here. So do all those things so she can find us. Okay, bye.